It's my pleasure to introduce you to our second Politics, Law, and Economics lecture of the fall 2015 semester. The Politics, Law, and Economics lecture series is designed to highlight those three institutions that must work in concert to defend a free civil society. You need good government, the rule of law, and market-based institutions. And where those three things overlap, we're able to create space where free enterprise enables people to use their God-given talents creatively to create a more flourishing society, a dignified society, and a less impoverished society. Our speaker this evening is Dr. Arthur Brooks. He is the president of the American Enterprise Institute, AEI. Before joining AEI, he was a Lewis A. Bantle Professor of Business and Government at Syracuse University, where he taught economics and social entrepreneurship. Dr. Brooks is the author of 11 books and hundreds of articles on topics ranging from the role of government to fairness, the economic opportunity, happiness, and the morality of the free enterprise system. His books include the New York Times bestseller, The Road to Freedom, How to Win the Fight for Free Enterprise, published in 2012. But before entering the world of public policy, he spent 12 years as a classical musician in the United States and in Spain. He's a frequent national television and radio talk show guest, and he's been published widely in publications including the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and the Washington Post. Tonight, Dr. Brooks is here to discuss his latest book, which is also a New York Times bestseller, The Conservative Heart: How to Build a Fairer, Happier, and More Prosperous America. Following his remarks tonight, we'll have some time for a Q&A session, and then we will have a book signing session following. So if you would, please join me in providing a warm Florida Southern welcome to Dr. Arthur Brooks.
Thank you very much. What an honor to be with you here tonight. And what a beautiful place. This is my first time visiting this campus, which I understand has been voted not once but twice as the most beautiful campus in America. I can certainly see that, given the architecture and the scenery. Delightful to be with you. And thank you for spending a little bit of time with me here tonight. When you're in college, you're asked a lot of questions. What are you planning to do for a living? Who are you at your essence? That's probably the most irritating question you hear all the time, because you're asked to figure out your identity, and it's sort of relentless in college today. But one of the questions that you're almost never asked, but is the most important question of all, is why are you going to do what you're going to do with your life? This is a question that you're going to have to figure out an answer to, or we're all wise to answer in our lives, and many people don't ever really figure it out. I live in Washington, D.C., where I run this think tank, this research institution, the American Enterprise Institute. And in Washington, D.C., the most ambitious place in the world, people always ask each other, what do you do for a living? They never ask each other, why do you do what you do? Now think about what you're doing in your life. How would you answer that question? Why are you doing what you're doing? I mean, some people, when asked that, they would answer sort of glibly, because I need to make a living, because somebody has to pay the rent, and they think about their jobs, or they think about their families, but there's not a really good and deep answer for a lot of people. Well, I want to tell you tonight about why I do what I do. And now what do I do? I'm a president of a think tank dedicated to free enterprise. This is a speaker series on free enterprise. This is a college where a lot of people are interested and dedicated to it. I've dedicated my career to working to improve the free enterprise and bring it to more people around the country and around the world. Why? Why do I think that's an important thing to do? Well, that's what I'm going to tell you. When I was a little kid, I was growing up, I grew up in a lower middle class family in Seattle, Washington, about as far in the continental United States as you can get from here. And when I was a little kid, there were a lot of people in my neighborhood in poverty. A lot of people on food stamps, a lot of people on welfare, a lot of broken homes, etc. But I remember the first time that I saw real poverty with my own eyes. It was just in the 1970s, and my brother had this subscription to National Geographic magazine. It's a magazine everybody knows. And I remember opening it, I was 7 or 8 years old, and I saw a picture of a kid in sub-Saharan Africa. And I'd never seen anything like it before. But you're more sophisticated than I was, growing up in this middle-class place. But I remember seeing the picture as a kid in Africa with flies on his face and a distended belly, and he was starving. Okay, now, people who are my age, about 50 years old, they remember seeing that for the first time. See, it turns out that's the first exposure that a lot of Americans have to seeing actual starvation level poverty. It was a picture in a magazine of a person who was starving to death. Now, remember the feeling that I had when I first saw it, which is, there's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can do for that kid. And furthermore, it's not right. I mean, I'm well-loved and happy and fed, and that kid who's just like me, except in a different place, is not going to live. How can that be in this world? It is something that's so unfair. And there's nothing I could do. I mean, I could give part of my allowance on Sunday morning, and I did, but you knew that wasn't going to get the job done. Well, I grew up, I went to college, I got married, I started my career, but sometimes my memory went back to that kid. What happened to that kid? Right? Well, here's the reason that I do what I do today. I found out what happened, not to that kid, because I don't know specifically, but what happened to the poorest people in the world. Here's what has happened to the poorest people in the world since I was a kid. If somebody asks you, has poverty gotten worse since 1970 in the world? A lot of you would say yes. 70% of Americans think that world poverty is worse now than it was in 1970. They're wrong. They're wrong. From 1970 until today, the percentage of the world's population living on the edge of starvation, that's $1 a day or less, is typically how economists like to measure this. The percentage of the world's population living on $1 a day or less, adjusted for inflation, of course, that percentage has declined since I was a child by 80%. There's been an 80% decline in starvation level poverty in the world. This is a miracle that's happened in my lifetime. And I didn't know about it until I studied free enterprise for the very first time. Until I studied the dynamics of world population and what's actually happening in people's lives. Now, I was amazed because that's an incredible miracle, and we got to figure out why that happened. You know how many people, by the way, who've been pulled out of starvation level poverty since I was a kid? For the first time in human history, 2 billion people have been pulled out of starvation level poverty. You got to know why. You got to ask why, because I bet every single person in this room joins me in believing that we are commanded to treat the least of these, our brothers and sisters, with special care and respect. I've heard that someplace, so have you. So if you figure out that in the past 40 or 50 years we've done it 2 billion times, you got to have an answer to how do we do it? Because if we figure that out, then we can do it again. So, okay, what did that? What pulled all these people out of poverty? Was it the United Nations, or the International Monetary Fund, or U.S. foreign aid, or was it central planning, or some big government policy? No, it was none of those things. Here's what it was. This is according to all economists, and it doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat or a conservative or liberal, it doesn't matter. All economists understand that it was 5 things that pulled those 2 billion people out of poverty. It was globalization, free trade, property rights, the rule of law, and entrepreneurship. It was the American free enterprise system that started spreading around the world after 1970 for the very first time in human history that pulled those people up. See, when I saw that kid sometime in the early 70s, people all around the world saw me, and they saw you. Because the explosion of mass communications was such that the world got smaller and the world got more transparent. And when I said, oh, isn't it a pity what's happening to that kid, he or people around him, you know what they said? They said, I want to live like Americans because I want their freedom and I want their stuff. And they started to copy our system. They threw off the chains of their poverty. And in many cases, they threw off the chains of their tyranny. And they started to be less poor. See, here's the truth. Our American free enterprise system is the only system in the history of the world that pulls people up by the millions and billions. It is the truly only great social justice humanitarian economic system that has ever been invented. It's starting here. All of you who are listening to this, all of you who participate in this, you're doing that. See, it's good to give alms for the poor. It's good for your soul. It's good to get you into heaven. But you have to have a system that works while you sleep, too. And that system's free enterprise. Congratulations. This is your gift to the world. This is our collective gift to the world. That's why I do what I do. I go around the country and around the world. I was in Florida today, North Carolina yesterday. I'm going to India tomorrow. Why? Because I'm going to talk about this stuff because I'm going to scream from the rooftops. We got to get the next 2 billion. We got to save the next 2 billion people in this world. And we have to do it with a system that brings dignity and hope and opportunity and optimism. This is your gift. And I need you to be warriors for this. I don't care about your politics. That's boring. I don't even care about my politics. What I care about is human life and ennobling that human life with a sense of meaning and helping other people to pull everybody else up. You need to be a warrior for free enterprise is what I'm saying to you. And that's what I talk about all the time. I go to a lot of college campuses. I do 150 or 175 speeches a year. Speaking all the time. And I go to college campuses and, especially when I go to places that are really progressive, for example. A lot of kids will come up afterwards and they say, wow, I didn't know that, but that's great. I'm down with that. I want to help poor people. Because of course you want to help poor people. We all want to help poor people. But then when I talk to a lot of kids, even when I talk to my own kids, because I have kids who are teenagers, and they'll say, the problem with capitalism, with free enterprise, I buy everything he said, it's all good. The problem with isn't that, though. So what's the problem? The problem with free enterprise is that maybe it helps other people with abundance around the world, but I'm not so sure it's good for us. Why not? Because I feel like people are forcing me and encouraging me to just be more and more productive all the time. The hamster wheel thing. Go get a job. Rise. Make lots of money. You're encouraged to do that all the time. That's not so good for my soul, is it? That's not such a good thing for me. It kind of feels rotten in my heart. So here's a funny thing that I keep hearing over and over again. People believe that we can lift up the world with this beautiful free enterprise system, but they're not so good that they want it for themselves. This is exactly the opposite of what a lot of people think. They think that free enterprise is about selfishness, and we say, I want it for me, but I don't want it for the rest of the world. That's exactly the opposite of the truth. People are worried about it for them. Maybe you're worried about it for you. Maybe you're worried about materialism. And when you hear about capitalism and tax rates and GDP, you think, it's actually kind of boring and there's no soul and there's no life in that. I don't want that so much. How do we think about that? That's what I want to talk about now. I'm going to come back to the whole free enterprise thing is good if you want to lift up the poor. I'm going to come back to that in a second. But first I want to deal with this objection that maybe it isn't so good for our souls to be so worried about business and money and commerce and productivity. How do we think about that? Well, and in case you think that that's a silly objection, let me tell you about a study that I think should be interesting to you. This is a study from the University of Rochester in upstate New York. 2 social psychologists were talking to graduating seniors, a group of 150 graduating seniors, 22 years old. And they were asking them a very simple question. What are your goals if you're going to be a successful person? Okay? It's a great design. What they did was they said, I want you to tell me about yourself 5 years from now. So this is a bunch of you. Think about yourself 5 years from now. You're happy. You're a successful person. What are you doing? Okay? That's an interesting question, right? Because first I predicate the whole idea on you being successful and happy. Then you tell me what your life looks like. I can tell you what your goals are based on that. And that's what they did with 150 graduating seniors from the university. Right? Now what do they find? They found that basically there were 2 sets of goals. They called them, by the way, they had special names for these goals. They had endogenous goals and exogenous goals. Fancy words. They had to get tenure or something. So that's what you always use, technical words when you're trying to be a college professor. Okay. First, endogenous goals. These are half the kids, by the way. Half the kids had these endogenous goals, which were about life and love and relationships. Okay? People. Their goals about people. Half the kids said, my main goal is to have a good relationship with my friends, to be close to my family, to know God, or to get married. Goals about people and love. Half the kids have that. Mostly women, by the way, but not entirely. The other half of these, now I want you to remember the word endogenous goals. I'm going to come back to this, okay? The other half had exogenous goals, which were primarily about money and power and fame. Okay? These kids, mostly men, but not entirely, said essentially, I want to get rich and famous. They said things like, I want to make money. I want to make more money than my peers. Or I want to be doing really well in my career. Or I want to be on the way to being a CEO. That's what half the kids said. Half and half. Half people, half money. Okay. They came back after 5 years, because I said, remember, 5 years. They came back when they were 27 years old to see how their lives were turning out. And this is where it really gets really interesting. Good news and bad news. Here's the good news. Everybody hit their goals. You know, here's this old axiom, careful what you wish for.
You might just get it.
You might just get it. Thank you very much. I didn't plant him, by the way. And everybody got it. It's amazing, you know. People think that maybe, you know, I want to make money and be successful, but maybe I won't. No, you will. If that's your main goal, you're going to get it. On the other hand, if you have endogenous goals about relationships, you're going to get that too. By the way, you know what blows people away at a lot of universities? When they find out that it's very common for college kids at 22 to say they want to be married in their 20s. See, you think it's sort of old school, sort of out of style. Lots and lots of people at secular universities too say, I want to be married. So what do they find? The kids who said, I have endogenous goals about people and relationships, they were the ones who were close to their parents, good friendships, good spiritual lives, and the ones who said they wanted to be married were virtually all either engaged or married. Those who had exogenous goals about money and power and fame, they were making more money than their peers. They were working tons of hours. They were doing really, really well. Careful what you wish for, because you're going to get it. Now, I work with a lot of young people. I have a workforce, and the president of an organization has 225 employees. And a lot of them are young. A lot of them are in their 20s or early 30s. And sometimes when I'm talking to them, it's sort of interesting. They'll say, yeah, you know, I worked hard on my career, but what I really want is to have a good set of relationships. I want to be close to my family. I really would like to get married, but, you know, I just haven't been successful in that. And I'm thinking, because I've seen this study, that's not what you want. Because if you did, that's what you'd have. I don't say that because, you know, it doesn't exactly make friends when you point out things like that. But that's how the thinking goes when you see the studies. You got to have the right goals. That's the good news, by the way. You're going to hit your goals. Here's the bad news. Wrong goals, worse life. The researchers asked people about their levels of life satisfaction, happiness, anger, anxiety, and stomach and head and physical ailments. What did they find? Those that had met their endogenous goals had low levels of anxiety and anger, high levels of happiness and life satisfaction. Those who had exogenous goals, money and power and fame, stomach aches, headaches, anger, anxiety, low levels of happiness. Careful what you wish for. Really careful what you wish for. Because if you pick the wrong goals, you go in the wrong direction, you're not going to get what you really want, which is the best life. Okay, now, why do I bring up that study? Because, look, I'm a big free enterprise guy. I'm a warrior for capitalism, but I just showed you a study that says if all you're about is apparently the fruits of capitalism for us, you're going to get the wrong things in life. You're not going to have as good a life as you could have otherwise. So how do you sort that out? What do you do? Is it all a sham? Is this whole capitalist thing not worth it? 2 years ago, I was thinking about this. It was really on my heart, actually, because I wanted to understand how to sort this out. I got to talk to my own kids about this, not just you. How do you talk about this? How do you net it out? Well, when I was thinking about this very seriously, I was on my way to India, where I'm going tomorrow. I go to India a lot because my organization has a big program studying India. It's one of the most interesting countries in the world. It is, 25 years from now, it'll be America's most important ally. It's also the most vital place in the world for understanding capitalism because the country's booming in all sorts of interesting ways. And so I go to India all the time. And I was on my way to India thinking about this problem 2 years ago. And a colleague of mine, an Indian guy who does a lot of work on India, he was with me and he says, what's on your mind? And I told him, I said, I can't figure out this balance. I don't want to lie to anybody. I don't want to tell somebody that capitalism is an unalloyed good and then wreck their life because they just work all the time and they're all about money. I mean, the soul's important to me. I'm a Christian. It's a big deal that I get this right. Huh. So this guy, he says, because we're on our way to Delhi, and he says, when we get to Delhi, I've got a guy you need to meet. And I said, what's his name? He said, his name is Swami Gyanmuni. And I said, you're putting me on. You want me to meet a Swami? And he said, yeah, you should go ask him about capitalism. I said, yeah, you want me to go talk to a Swami about capitalism? He says, trust me, the guy's the best. It was like I have any frame of reference. I've never met a Swami before. So I get to Delhi, and I make an appointment, and I go to see this guy. It's a Swami. He's the administrator of this unbelievable Hindu temple. I've never seen anything like it before. It took 10,000 stone-cutting artisans working with their hands full-time for 7 years to build this temple. It's a wonder of the modern world. And I was looking at it with incredulity, but I was worried because I was going to meet this Swami, and I was wondering if he was going to be able to really understand me. He speaks English probably, but this is subtle stuff. The stuff that I told you here. How am I going to get this point across? So I'm thinking about it, and I'm in this courtyard. It's a really hot day, and I see him coming toward me. He's 100 yards away, and I see he's got the shaved head and this flowing orange robe, and he's looking all meditative and mellow. And he comes walking up real slow, and he gets about as far away as you are to me here, 3 yards away, and he looks at me, and he recognizes me, and he says, how you doing? And I said, where are you from? And he says, Texas. So this is getting weird now, because I'm in India to talk to a Swami about capitalism, and it turns out he's from Texas. So I asked him his story, and his story is worth repeating. See, it turns out his parents were petroleum engineers, and they immigrated to Texas, to Houston, and that's where he was born. His mom and dad were Indian. Now, they had exogenous goals for their son. Remember, money and power. They were pressing him hard. They said, high levels of education. You're going to be successful. You're going to make a lot of money. You're going to make us proud. And he did. He graduated from high school as the valedictorian at age 16. Went on a full scholarship at the University of Texas and graduated in 3 years. He went on to get his MBA and finished in 1 year at the top of his class and went to work for McKinsey as a consultant. Now, weird story, because now it turns out that the Swami from Texas is a total capitalist with an MBA. So the plot thickens here. And I said, so what was life like? And he said, well, actually I was making more money than I ever thought I could. I was making more money than my dad when I was 20 years old. And he said, I didn't have any life. I didn't have a girlfriend. I never saw my parents. I was working 110 hours a week. Yeah, but they were so proud of me. And I worked and I worked. And he said it went on until he was 26 years old. And his career was going great. But he woke up on his 26th birthday and he said to himself, is this it? I mean, really? Just making a ton of money? Is this what my life is going to be like from here on out? And he decided to pray about it for 6 months. He set a goal for himself. It was a vision quest. That I'm going to think about this for 6 months. I'm going to pray about it every day for 6 months. He was a very pious Hindu from a religious family. Pray about it every day for 6 months, and at the end of 6 months, I'm going to make a decision. So he did. He gets to the end of 6 months and he says, you know what? I'm not going to do this. He sold everything he had. He quit his job. He gave his money to the poor. And he moved to India, entered a Hindu seminary, and 6 years later, he emerged a monk who owns nothing. Actually, literally, he owns 4 things. 2 robes, prayer beads, and a bowl for his food. That's it. And this is how I met the guy. Now, I'm there to ask him about capitalism. Ridiculous. This is a guy who knows it's a sham, who gave it all up because his life had no meaning. He didn't want any part of the markets. At least that's what I think he's going to say, but I ask anyway. Get my courage up, Swami, I say. Is capitalism good? He says, no. Capitalism is great. It's the only system that's lifted people in my country out of poverty by hundreds of millions. Incredible. So now I'm on the other side of the argument. Now, I don't believe him. I'm saying, but look at you. You gave it all up. You own nothing. You renounced everything because capitalism was sucking out your soul, right? I mean, isn't money a problem? And he says, you know, by the way, he was calling me dude. He says, no, dude, you don't understand. Money's not a problem. The problem is attachment to money. Now, I should have known this. It sounded super Eastern to me for the moment, but it isn't. See, my Christian faith is at the center of my life. This is the most important thing in my life. And, you know, I've read the scriptures since I was a kid. And there's this one scripture, it's first letter of St. Paul to Timothy, chapter 6, verse 10, for those who are counting. That's the most misquoted scripture in the Bible. You know what it is? Here's the misquote. Here's the incorrect quote. Money is the root of all evil. No. The love of money is the root of all evil. That's what St. Paul said, right? See, Swami told me, he said, you want the secret to happiness, dude? I said, yeah, lay it on me. Swami, he says, abundance without attachment. That's what we're looking for. Abundance lifts up the poor. Lack of attachment, non-attachment, sets us free. Now, this is crazy stuff I'm telling you here, right? I'm a big capitalist, but I'm telling you that capitalism is not for me and it's not for you. It's for them. It's for the people who can't be with us. It's for the people who've been left behind. It's for the people who need it the most in America and around the world. We have capitalism. That's great. That's fantastic. And the abundance that we enjoy is a wonderful thing. But that's not the point. The point of the abundance is the poor. We have to free ourselves from the tyranny of materialism with non-attachment. How do we do it? See, that's the secret. Abundance without attachment is the secret. And you got to ask yourself, by the way, how come not everybody knows this? How come nobody, actually it occurs to people when they're little kids, look, I need abundance without attachment. If that's so true, how is it? Look, it's in every scripture. I gave you Paul's letter to Timothy. If you prefer the Old Testament, Ecclesiastes 5:10, he who loves money never has enough of it. Isn't that the truth? This too is meaningless. That's true things that have never been said. So how come we don't understand that? You want to know why? You want to know why people forget this? It's because there's a conspiracy. There's always a conspiracy out there, right? Listen to the world and the message the world is teaching you, especially when you're in college. You know the message that the world teaches you to how to get a happy life from Hollywood and television and Madison Avenue and popular culture? You know, here they give you a formula. They give you a handy-dandy formula for the best possible life. You know what it is? Use people, love things. That's what the world tells you, right? But you know in your heart that's exactly backwards. You really want to be happy? Use things, love people. That's it. You love nothing except people and God. You use nothing except things. That's the formula to a happy life. That's abundance without attachment. But that's not the formula the world's giving us. So here's the real question. How do we get that? How do we get abundance without attachment? Here's the wrong solution. Here's not the way to get that. Lower abundance for everybody. That's not the way to do it. See, you could say, look, I want less attachment to stuff, so the way I'm going to do it is I'm just going to go out there and I'm going to go, let's say I'm the government, I'm going to go take stuff away from people such that they have less. That doesn't work. You want to know why? Because when there's less abundance, the poor get poorer. Always and everywhere, the poor get poorer. The easy way, the obvious way, is the wrong way, unless you want to hurt poor people. You got to do it in a more subtle way. See, we have to protect abundance, but at the same time, we have to practice non-attachment. That's the trick. I'm going to give you two solutions. And if you do the two things that I tell you, you're going to start practicing abundance without attachment starting tonight. And by tomorrow, it's my money-back guarantee, which means nothing because this speech is free. If you do what I tell you by tomorrow, you're going to be a happier person. Okay? Number one. The first practice of abundance without attachment. Think about the thing that you're most attached to. Get in your head, okay? Think about the physical, material thing that you're most attached to. Give it away. See, do you want to be a rebel against the things that hold you down? Do you want to throw off your shackles? This is your act of rebellion. Charity is an act of the rebel against what the human spirit tells us to do. Now, for what I'm telling you, now, by the way, I'm not saying give all your stuff away like Swami did. I'm saying take something of the thing to which you're most attached and give it away, even though it hurts a little bit. It's going to feel good. How do I know it's going to feel good? Because that's what I did research on. For years and years and years, my main area of research, when I was teaching economics at Syracuse University, I was working on the economics of charity. Charity is the most interesting thing in the world to me. I mean, why do people do it? Who does it? Who does more of it? Religious people or secular people? Old people or young people? Democrats or Republicans? I know the answers to these questions. But when I was doing research on this, when I was still a college professor, I kept finding this one weird result that I could never quite understand. And here it was. I kept finding when I was looking at the data on charitable giving, that the more money you give away, the richer you get. Doesn't make sense. I mean, to an economist like me, I didn't go through a PhD to learn that the best way to make money in life is just give it all away. That's not what they teach you in graduate school. They teach you about prudent investment strategies, which doesn't include just giving your money to poor people by the wheelbarrow full, right? So I thought that there was something wrong with my data when I kept finding this. I kept finding it in big data sets of 40 and 50 communities, 40 and 50,000 Americans. And by the way, the connection between giving and getting richer, I found it was causal. You give more, next year you start to make more money. Doesn't make sense. So I ignored it. Didn't do anything with it. But I couldn't get it out of my head. So I was having lunch with this friend, a psychologist who did work in charitable giving too, and I said, I have a data problem. I keep finding that the more money you give away, the richer you get. Stupid, right? What am I doing wrong? And he says, what are you talking about? We've known that for 30 years. What do you mean? He said, oh yeah, no, in the psychology world, we've known for decades that when you give more, your life gets better. But we don't think about it in terms of making money because that's boring. We think about it in terms of happiness. And we know, by the way, why that's so, because it changes stress levels, and it changes the hormone levels in your brain, and it changes how people treat you, and your self-efficacy, and all this stuff. They can give you all the explanations. Then, of course, the light bulb went off once again. It's true. It makes perfect sense. The more you give, the happier you get, the more effective you get, the more people like you, and of course you start to make a little bit more money. Okay? As soon as I came to that realization, I started seeing this every place I looked. Studies showing the more money you give away, the richer you get. The more time you give away, the happier you get. The more of anything you give away, the healthier you get. These things are true. By the way, my favorite studies, they show that the more you give, the better looking you get. It's true. And here's this amazing experiments by these two psychologists at the University of Liverpool in England. And they have these crazy experiments where they invite married couples into the laboratory. And it's always guys with their wives. And sometimes they've been married for a year, sometimes 50 years. And they come in and they say, okay, simple experiment. The guy in the white lab coat, he gives the husband a pocket full of change and says, simple, walk from this building to that building over there. And when you get over there, my colleague's going to be waiting for you, and he's going to interview you for 10 minutes. Simple. And then you're free to go. And you get to keep the change, by the way. So that's it? That's it. Okay. So each couple goes out, walking along, jingle, 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 change, pocket full of change. And halfway between the buildings, there's an alleyway. And when they get to the alleyway, a homeless guy comes wandering out, and he panhandles the husband. Hey, buddy, you got some change? Now, he does have some change. We know he has some change. But the husband's got to make a decision. Am I going to give the homeless guy some money or not? And how much? Okay, makes a decision, finishes up, goes on to the next building, and the guy with the other white lab coat's waiting for him. First, he asks the husband, how much did you give the homeless guy? Second, he asks the wife, how much do you like him right now? Why? Because they want to find a correlation between how generous you are and how handsome your wife finds you. And what do they find? The more you give the homeless guy, the more she likes you. News you can use. There you are. This is real life research. And what do we find? Your life improves when you rebel against your own materialism. Practice number 1. Think about the material things that hold you down. Give them away. Even if you don't want to. Second. The second practice of abundance without attachment is to remember endogenous goals. Remember the University of Rochester study with the endogenous goals? You have resources. You have money. Use your resources not to get more stuff, but to get more endogenous relationships. In other words, invest not in physical things, invest in the relationships with the people that you love. This brings you non-attachment. Now, I've been married for almost 24 years. On November 6th, I'll have been married for 24 years. And about this time, 23 years ago, right, my wife and I, my new wife and I, we were having this big argument, ironically, about how to celebrate our first wedding anniversary. and here was the argument, okay? The argument was how to celebrate it given the fact that we had no money. I mean, we were poor. My wife was working a minimum wage job, and I was teaching music at night, trying to get my bachelor's degree. It was bad. I mean, we looked at the checking account, and there was tumbleweeds going through it practically. And we had just enough ability to to beg or to borrow, and just enough money to do one of two things. So we had to make a choice. We could either go to the beach for 3 days, or we could buy a couch. And we didn't have a couch. So that was a choice. Now, here's the argument. My wife, who's from Barcelona, is all about the beach. And I'm a thrifty, practical American, so I'm all about the couch. I mean, we gotta get a couch, honey, gotta get a couch, right? And so this is how the argument went back and forth. Beach, couch, beach, couch, beach, couch. And then we came to a big compromise and went to the beach. And years later, we were reflecting on this. And something came to us, a realization came to us, and that we could sort of call the paradox of things. See, if we'd gotten the couch, which by the way we ultimately did, it would have been gone in 5 years, which it was, or 10 years. Out in the dump. Today it would be on Craigslist. You don't even know what color it was. You forget it, it's gone. It's gone from your appreciation, from your memory. But I can tell you, everything we did every hour of that vacation 23 years ago. Weird, right? That's the paradox. See, the things that you think are permanent, that stuff, it's not permanent. It's gone. The things that you think are evanescent, that aren't permanent, they're in there forever. They're in here forever if you're with people that you love. That's the paradox of things. That which you think is impermanent is permanent, and vice versa. There's a credit card commercial that really illustrates this. You've seen it a million times. If you've ever turned on the television, you've seen it. It's been running for 25 years. It's the most successful credit card commercial in the history of the industry, and it's for MasterCard. Okay? And they recut it every year so it looks modern. And here's how it works. There's no dialogue, just a voiceover, right? It'll be like, for example, a guy getting into a car with a kid, right? And the voiceover says, beach ball, $3. Gas for the car, $36. 2 nights in a hotel, $275. The weekend alone at the beach with my son. Price. It's just an ad. But you know it speaks the truth. That's why it's effective. I can give you 12 studies that show this. I can give you 1,200 studies that show this, but I'm not going to waste your time. I'm going to tell you, by the way, how this finally was brought home once and for all for me. Now, I have 3 teenagers at home. God bless me, my wife. And my middle son's name is Carlos. And Carlos is, every family's got a Carlos. Carlos is a piece of work, let me tell you. I mean, Carlos is always running some sort of a scheme, right? He's that kid. You know, it's like the principal calls and says, I'm not sure you're aware, but your son Carlos is running an illicit underground reptile selling business. You know, like, what is that? It's always like this with Carlos, right? It's been like this his whole life. So Carlos is 15 now. 6 years ago when Carlos was 9, in the fall, he goes to me and says, Dad, I've been thinking about Christmas. Now I'm nervous immediately. A normal kid, I'd say, oh yeah, it's great, you're terrific. You know, Carlos, I'm on the defensive, right? Because I know that he's got some plan. And you can see I'm nervous. You know, I'm actually trying to divert attention and change the subject. Well, it's good to have Christmas in your heart all year round. Carlos, you know, that kind of, no. He says, Dad, you don't understand. I don't want anything. I've been thinking about it. All I want this year is I want to go away hunting and fishing alone, just with you. And I'm thinking, that costs 19 times more than a bike. To Father of the Year, right? And, but I didn't say that, you know, I didn't say that. You know what I said? I said, that's awesome, Carlos, let's do that. And we did it. And we come to Florida, I live in Maryland. We come to Florida every Christmas, between Christmas and New Year's. We've done it every year since. And Carlos says, because it's all he wants. He says it's all he's going to want forever and ever and ever and ever. You know, this last year we went to Clewiston. Remember Clewiston, to south of Lake Okeechobee? We were shooting hogs. And then we went light tackle fishing off Marco Island for a couple of days. Why do I tell you? Because it's in here forever. And if I got him a bike or a scooter or something, it'd be broken and gone and forgotten almost immediately. But this is permanent. See, that's the deal. If you invest in the relationships with the people that you love, you will have something truly permanent, and you will be not attached to the material things that hold you down. That's the secret to your non-attachment, while upholding the ethic of abundance for other people. Try those two things. Now let's go back to the main point. What have I been talking about here today? You got to be warriors with me for the free enterprise system, because that's the only system that's going to lift people up around the world. There's no other way. If you join me in a love for our brothers and sisters around the world, you must fight for the system that lifts them up. None other will do it. But we also have a responsibility to ourselves and to our families to make sure that we do not live under the tyranny of materialism. And we do that through non-attachment. Abundance without attachment, just like the Swami told me, is the secret to our happiness. Now, this is a new ideology, by the way. If I'm asking you to fight for free enterprise, and I'm calling you to virtue with non-attachment, this is really different than what you hear in most political debates, isn't it? It's beyond Democrat and Republican, which is boring. It's beyond right and left, which is simply like straw compared to this. I'm asking you to help me, and together have all of us build a system that lifts people up all around the world, including the poor and us. That's what I'm asking you for. Now, this is a lifelong journey, but that's the why of our lives. Pass on this message and live it in your lives, and life will get better, and all of this will have meaning. That's my promise to you. And for doing that, when the world gets better, and our brothers and sisters around the world are lifted up, and you're happier people, and people see that there's a new day, where there's more peace, and there is more happiness, for that, I say God bless you in your work, and thank you.